All right, here we are. Welcome back to PRN. Here with Randall from BragginRights Precision. Of course, I'm Jim. Reloading Journey. Got a special guest today, my son Roman, uh, our special guest host. Him and our guest Charles Moser, who will be on here in a minute. I've known each other about 14 years. I've known him a little bit, probably 13 and a half years, because Roman met him first. But got anything to say, Randall?
Nope. Just happy to have everybody here. Thank you for chiming in because again, we're just getting started with our podcast. We're going to build this big, and we just want to start the community. So, but Roman and Jim here, they have a personal relationship with Charles, so they'll be doing a lot more talking than I will because of that personal relationship. So
This is going to be a good one, guys. Charles is a fucking awesome guy. Got some great stories. He's one of those guys that you can't help but like. He'd give you the shirt off his back. Has always been there when Roman was doing what he was doing. He was always there for Roman. Just a great guy. Really helped him out. And what's crazy is when you talk to him, when you see him on here, you think, oh no, he's a big guy. When you're with him, he's always the most dangerous man in the room. Somebody you wouldn't want to mess with. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring him on right now. Here we go. Welcome, Charles.
Hi guys, how you doing? It's good to be with you.
Man of the hour.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Charles has been a good friend for a lot of years, and like I said, though, he looks like he's 6 foot, over 200 pounds. He's a big guy, but there's a lot more to him, man. I wouldn't want to mess with him or his family. Don't get on his bad side.
Don't let that mild mannered disc jockey look.
I'm a very nice guy. What are you talking about?
So I'm gonna let Roman kind of take over now and talk about because he's the one that met you first. And
I had the pleasure of meeting Charles years ago. Was it 15 years ago? 14 years ago?
Yeah.
15, I think.
Whenever I was joining the military, and he stepped in, and there was a lot of us joining the military at that time, joining the Navy, and we needed some training to be prepared for the program that we were going into. And he stepped right in, and he was like, I can help. And he went above and beyond for me and everybody else that wanted to be there. Unfortunately, it started with like 10 of us that were there. And I think by the third day, there was only 3 of us left that continued to go every morning at 4:00 in the morning. And he was always there. He had workouts for us and just mentorship. And it was just one of the greatest experiences of my life, being able to be there and working out with him and learning from him. And so, I called you 3 months ago for advice on something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I still call him and bug him. So
you're never bugging me. My life philosophy is this. I'm a resource for you always. So we're friends. I love you like you're my own son. I love your dad like he's my brother. So, you guys ever need something, I'm a phone call away.
Absolutely.
A good friend to have.
Yeah. Well, we got to be careful about what we say.
I
don't want to get kicked off the live screen.
Well, let's start. Won't you tell us more about yourself and about your business with Swat Concepts and the things that you've done, your time with the Navy?
Cool. So, it started off, I was a young guy in high school. My parents got a divorce, and my dad is a Marine. He threatened me my whole childhood that when I turned 18 years old, he's going to march me down to the Marine Corps and they'd make a man out of me. And but when my parents got a divorce, I learned how to scuba dive, and my dive instructor just happened to be a guy by the name of Terry. He was a SEAL team dude at Team 1, showed me some pictures, told me some stories, and he was that positive influence in my life that was always like, you can do this. You can do this. You should sign up for the military and do it. And then, as things go, I was working on a sport fishing boat for a number of years. I did that. Next thing you know, I'm 20 years old and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with life, and no wife, no kids, nothing like that. And I just said, hey, this is the only opportunity I'm going to get to try to do that crazy SEAL team thing. So I'd actually flown back east to pick up my sister. She was bringing her daughter out to California to live with my mom. And I told my dad about it. And my dad said, Charlie, you got weak knees, and I don't think you're going to make it through the training. I've seen the training; it's really hard, and this and that. And two things happened in that moment. First one was that hurts. When you're the dad, and you're expressing, something like that to your son, that hurts your son because he thinks that you're the guy who's always going to have my back. And then when that doesn't happen, that can be pretty traumatic to a degree. But at the same time, it lit a fire in me that came alive when I got the SEAL training. So that bothered me that he had said that. And then, next thing you know, I'm off to boot camp, get through boot camp, go to my A school, pass all the PT tests, go to BUDS. I get to BUDS, and day one. So there's a preconditioning phase that lasts almost a month. So I go to the preconditioning phase, and you're doing timed runs, time swims, and things like that. Like they try to pair you up with somebody that's going to be appropriate swim buddy for you. They don't want really fast guys swimming with really slow guys. What they're going to do is they're going to cut the dead weight. 200 of the fittest guys show up, and only 20 guys are going to graduate, 20 to 30 guys, and they know that. So 170 to 180 people are going to go home. So they're not going to let some guy basically hold on to somebody else's curtails to get through the training, right? They're going to make you put out. They're going to make you give every ounce that you have. And so day one happens where we classed up day one, and they tortured the shit out of us. It was the most horrible day of my life. And the worst part about it was the day's over. It was buddy carries up and over the berm. They don't give a crap, and I was literally 170 pounds when I went through training. And I remember on day one, we're doing these buddy carries up and over the berm, and, it's get wet and sandy and come back and pays to be a winner, and you're never a winner. And it's just torture all day long. And then, so at the end of day one, we're in the compound, the BUDS compound. And because they have the first floor is the barracks rooms for all of the actual first phase class. That way they can get to you 24 hours a day, which is not a good experience. But so I'm standing in the shower in the bathroom. It's not really a bathroom. It's like it's an open area with a couple of showers and some sinks and mirrors. There's no if you're afraid to get unclothed in front of others, that's not going to be a good place for you because you'll never take a shower. So anyway, I'm standing there in the bathroom and I'm looking myself in the mirror, and I'm covered in sand, and I wanted to cry. Like,
Right.
It hurt so bad. I was so destroyed that I just was like, holy fuck, what did I get myself into? And the pain, I can't describe it, what it feels like to be in that moment. But then I just remember what my dad said, and I found it myself in the mirror. I was just like, you know what? I'd rather fucking die here than ever hear him tell me I told you so. And that lit a fire in me that burns to this day. Everything I've done, I've almost lived my dad's career, just that I did it on another level. I couldn't just be in the military. I had to be a Navy SEAL, right? So then I do that, I get out of the SEAL teams, get on with the Sheriff's Department. I want to get on the SWAT team. I'm not going to get an opportunity in San Diego for quite a while. So I go to Las Vegas. I do 5 years patrol time, get on the SWAT team there.
Hey, Charles, I don't mean to interrupt you. What was the timeline? Like, was there a gap whenever you got out of the military to getting on to Metro? Was it like you jumped right in, like 1 month?
Yeah, no. So I got out. So I got in December of '89. I got out in December of 95, like beginning of January is when I got out. Then I went back to driving boats because I had my captain's license. So I had a 100-ton master's license from the Coast Guard. So I was running sport fishing boats and dive boats. And that's a common thing that happens when you get out, you go back to what you know. And, the downside is in the summertime, you make a lot of money, but in the wintertime, you're starving. So, having a family, I had a wife with 2 kids, and you got to put food on the table and pay the bills. So I looked at law enforcement. My dad had always told me, hey, after you get out of the military, law enforcement's a great job for you. And there's a lot of things about it that work well for a military guy. So I put in for the sheriff's department. I got hired in 1997. I was there for 3 years. And then
That was in San Diego?
Yeah, in San Diego. And, after I got hired there, I really wanted to get on the SWAT team, but I talked to a guy, Lieutenant Skoglund, who I was working for, and he was honest. He said, hey, it's going to take you about 10 years to get on our SWAT team. You got to do 5 years in here. You got to do 5 years in the jail, 5 years patrol time before you're even going to get a test. So now you're 40. How long do you think you're going to stay operational, and all that? And I just said, where there's a will, there's a way. And so he said, you should go to either LAPD or Las Vegas. Two really big teams, very good teams, full-time teams, and there's a higher turnover rate. So I put in for both, and thank the Lord, Vegas called me first because I didn't want to live in LA. But when you look at it, depending on who you talk to, Vegas is one of the top 3 teams in the country. You have LAPD, you have Vegas, and then you have, is it Orange County SEB or something like that, and then you have, New York ESU. Depends on who you talk to and what's going on, but we're generally talked about in the top 3 in the nation. So it's a great team with a lot of very, very good operators. And so anyway, I went there. I did 5 years patrol time. I actually did a plainclothes detective gig for about a year and a half, 2 years, which I got to do some really crazy shit. Like I had a business front that I put computers and stuff in. I had it wired for sound and video. And so when somebody would break in on the commercial burglary side, there'd be a tracker in the machine, and then I'd do a telephonic search warrant. SWAT would come out and do the search warrant on the house and take these guys into custody. And so that started with getting my FaceTime with those guys. But I remember sitting on day one. Well, it wasn't day one. It was probably the first week of the academy in Vegas. And they said, the SWAT guys are in there. Hey, I want you to stand up, tell me your name, and tell me why you're here. And so I was, I'm M, so I'm at the back of the line. So towards the end, they're like, hey, I'm like, hey, I'm Charles Moser from Las Vegas or from San Diego. I'm here to get on your SWAT team. And I remember one of the guys made a comment to me walking out, like, yeah, it's kind of interesting that you would be willing to stand up and say that. Like, I guess they didn't have many people who had that kind of confidence, but I'm one of those people. When I put my mind to it, my mind's to it. That's what I'm going to do. And Roman knows this from our conversations. It doesn't matter what obstacles in front of you. There's always a way around it. One way or another, there's always some way around it. If you're determined, it's a matter of how much effort you want to put into something. And so I got on the SWAT team. But I had gotten married in that time frame, and so this is what leads into me meeting with Roman and the guys. So my wife was she joined the military. She didn't come from a wealthy family either. She lived her family was from LA, but she joined the military so she could get her college paid for. She did 4 years, got out, went to college, got her degree. She was working for the police department in Irvine. She got hurt on the job. She came out to Vegas, and that's how we met through a friend. It's one of those moments, man. The crowd parted, the light shined on her, and I was like, oh, Lord, I'm in trouble. And I married her 3 months later. But she stayed in the reserves. And so she did a stint in Las Vegas as a recruiter. And during that time frame as a recruiter, some of the people she was putting in the military were like, hey, well, your husband was a former Navy SEAL. Would he be willing to train us? And they had something called a boat crew at the time, where they would have a SEAL motivator come out and basically kind of work the guys out. And the thing that bothered me about it was he wasn't training anyone. He was just doing a PT test every time he came. And I'm like, you're not building an athlete. You're just testing a dude. And it's just like, it goes back to firearms qualification stuff for law enforcement. You're not making better shooters. You're just making sure they can pass the qual, right? It's not a progressive program. So when I looked at that with with what was going on, I offered myself up to the guys and say, hey, if you guys want to work out, if you guys really want to train for it, it's 4:30 in the morning. Because it goes back to my mentality and my philosophy about, first, I have a very busy schedule anyway. But if I'm going to put my effort into it, I want you to put some effort into it too.
Yeah.
And then as
And
we
that
start,
was real quick. Just you were training them just physical training. You weren't trained to be Navy SEALs or anything like that. It was just all down and dirty, running, jump, pull ups, push ups, weights and stuff. You were just getting them physically ready.
yep, I was building athletes.
Yeah.
Right. So I was training, or I was helping the guys get to their optimal physical fitness state. So when they took the PT test, they would score high enough to get a contract and to go to buds. And then the one thing that's very difficult to train is a never quit, never give up mentality. No matter what the adversity is. I had one guy, he had admitted to some stuff, in the paperwork that he probably shouldn't have admitted to. And I was like, listen, man, you're still a good person, regardless of what you had said, but there's got to be a way. And so him and I had an offline conversation, and sure enough, he got his opportunity to get into the military, and he got a contract to go to buds. Great dude. He ends up blowing his back out, and it was unfortunate. But, you'll never know until you test yourself. And I think every man walking wants to know what he's made of on the inside when push comes to shove. And that was the thing that I found there at 20 years old was I knew, and it really wasn't so much that I knew what I was made of. I knew that I would take more punishment probably than any sane person would, because it's a very painful experience. It's very cold and wet and miserable. And Roman knows you can't put a description on what goes on there. It's just fucking bad. It's just bad. And and that's at Buds. The team actually was even worse. There were times where I slept in a swamp, freezing my freaking cojones off. It was snowing. Me and a guy, Bob Bennett, we slept in a swamp in Virginia at a communications course, and we thought we were going to freeze to death. But neither one of us would get on the radio and go, hey, it's too cold. We want to come in. That's not happening. You'll find my frozen dead body first, And so there was a lot of that, but you learn a lot about how to push through in times where it's difficult or it's tough. And physical fitness will do that to you as well. When you push yourself in a workout, there comes a point to where you want to stop and you want to bend over, you want to put your hands on your knees, and you want to just take a break for a minute. That's where you find it in yourself to keep pushing. And you go, no. You look at the watch, you go, I got 2 more minutes. I can get 1 more round. And you freaking go hard. And you dig deeper and you dig deeper. And then what's interesting is then you see the benefit of that on that next physical evolution that you need to do. You're like, well, this didn't suck as bad as the last thing. And then you're always kind of gauging it. Like most of my life, I just go, well, after all the crap that I had to eat on the beach and I slept in a swamp freezing my balls, I was like, no, this isn't that bad. So, it's kind of helps with reflection for the things that you're going to try to do or that you want to do. Just helps keep pushing you through it. So I trained the guys, did that for a number of years. And then after that, I ended up retiring from law enforcement. Had a great career. I did 22 years with Metro, 3 years in San Diego. So I had a 25-year career. But it became a time for me to move on. And everyone has to look at themselves and say, hey, is the juice worth the squeeze anymore? And it wasn't for me. The disrespect, the stuff that gets done and said, it's even worse now than it was then.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was very difficult to deal with.
To be a cop right now, I don't know why some guys do it because there's no gratitude from most of the country for it anymore.
I mean,
being a police officer.
I did 7 years volunteering with the police department where I lived at in Florida. And that started in what, 03, and it was bad enough then. You did certain streets you go down, you're lucky not to be shot at, spit on, and today I just couldn't imagine.
Yeah. And this is the unfortunate part about it. And I hope everyone listening can hear what I'm saying. And it's this is that even though there are those neighborhoods with those people, you know, if what happened on October 7th happened in this country, those cops are the first ones on the firing line to protect those people, even though they hate them and they want to spit on them.
Yeah.
It's just like it takes a different type of person to be willing to do that when that's how you're treated.
Absolutely.
I had a conversation with some girls one time, lesbian couple, but that doesn't matter. I don't really give a crap. But they thought that because I was a cop, I was a certain way. And I told them, I said, listen, I could care less what your personal preference is. If something's ever happening at your house and you need help, call me because I'll be the first one through the door.
Yeah.
That's just my personality. I've been a protector since I was 20 years old. I started off in the military and the law enforcement. I take it serious. Now I do protection work for other people, but at the time, I trained all the time because I never wanted to be in that scenario where someone lost their life because I wasn't capable of performing my job the way it needed to be performed. Guys would get pissed at me sometimes at the team because I'd be to work 2 hours early, and you're shooting all the ammo, and I'm like, well, that's because on these calls that we go on, your life matters to me, dude. And I took it so serious that I was so worried about screwing it up and missing when somebody's life hung in the balance. I would get there 2 hours early and I would shoot and I'd shoot and I'd shoot. I stopped watching sports back in 2006 when I went to the SWAT team. That's how serious I was about it. And then it becomes like an addiction kind of. I mean, even to this day, I do research on shootings and incidents that occur around the country with SWAT teams and what happened, what were the details, because I do a lot of training stuff. And in the training, I'm trying to get everyone to this next level of training. And what's shocking to me is people who are doing the job, they don't take it that serious.
Well, tell us how your experience with all that has turned into what you do now with SWAT concepts.
Yes, a lot of it is, a lot of people out there want to own firearms, carry firearms. Look at what happened in Israel. That really bothers me because, now you go, okay, well, how many thousands of Chinese nationals came in across the border of all fighting age males?
Right.
If they launched the attack tomorrow and it happens when you're in traffic on the highway, are you prepared to get out and stop that? 95% of this country is not prepared for what's coming. And it's coming. You can see the writing on the wall. They opened that border up for a reason. And they let all these people in. They want to talk about the known gotaways. Well, what about the people we don't know about?
Yeah, there's as many or more of those.
And the cartel itself. I don't understand why they're not launching special operations missions against them every single day. Those people don't deserve to breathe. With the stuff they're doing to other human beings, I don't understand why our country stands back and allows it. They just pretend like they turn a blind eye to it like it's not happening. It's like, if you want to rape and murder little girls, yeah, bro, I'll shoot you in your face. Like, that's the kind of person I am. But anyway, I die. I have my moments where I spin out, like, oh shit, he's having a fucking.
That's something. Roman and I did one of your courses, one of your classes from
SWAT concepts.
SWAT concepts, and I'll go ahead and bring up some pictures. It was a lot of fun. Hold on, and I'll get it up here in a second. Work with me here. I should have had this ready. I got to get Moser back up on this one too.
Yeah, I'm ugly enough in the small picture, much less the big.
Here, we'll change it out. There you go, with the man of the hour. Here, let me get this going real quick. I'm just going to bring up some pictures and some stuff of where the hell did it go? Whenever we did that, share.
It's broadcasting now.
It should be down here. Should be down here for me to put up. Sorry, guys, it's not working right for me here. Let's go entire screen then. This one here, share. There we go. All right. I'll have it up here in a second. So what we did was it was called the Urban Sniper
Yes.
course, and part of first 3 days we were out doing long range shooting. Come on, work with me here. Nothing wants to work right now. I had this all working perfect, and then the time comes for me to shine, and it's a shit show.
Right there.
Well, I should be able to tap down through these.
Yeah, hit the right one.
No, that's not what I want, though.
Well,
I should be able to bring this up, and then
it'll just make it bigger on the screen.
yeah. Well, this is what I want. So we did the long range shooting. We had our own ARs. He had us. He showed us. First thing we went through is we took a box of ammo, and he had us do the ballistics, running through the chronograph. There you go, and get an average because they all shoot our average velocity, and then he showed us how to write it all out, do the dope and all that. And he said, "Okay, you should know this." And then he brought out this app, this badass app, that would help us figure it all out just by putting in the numbers rather than actually using our head. There you go, Colton. We'll have to get you out there. We got to do one. Moser, Colton, Ando Life is my nephew, Colt. I don't know if you've ever met him or not, but he would be great. Yeah, we'll definitely get you out, do one of his courses again.
Cool. Yeah, it'll be a good time.
He had us shooting our 223s out to 700 yards, pinging still. It was a lot of fun. And then he just kind of went over some stuff that, just every day it's stuff you don't think about when the time comes, but being like, gosh, dang it. This is pissing me off. Hold on. I'll go.
Hit the second button.
Worked so well in the practice run, man.
This is what I want, though.
Isn't that always the case?
He just brought up like different scenarios. He might be out on a call and have to get in somebody's backyard we may not have. He showed us how to shoot off of a bipod, off of a tripod. He said you may have to just find, as a sniper, he may just have to find something out there to steady his gun on. The guy had a ladder in his backyard. That's all I had, and then he just kind of went over.
Or when you're out hunting.
Yeah.
Just no matter what you're hunting, there's got to be a time you're going to have to hold your gun steady. And he showed us kind of how to, if you have to shoot offhand, you have nothing to, how to wrap yourself up in the sling and sitting from a, sitting position. It was just a lot of great knowledge. It was a lot of fun. And then he took us, showing, stuff he had to think about as a sniper. You shoot through window, you shoot through an obstacle. What's that going to do to your bullet? Is the bullet going to wind up where you want it? Is it going to, we put the glass at straight and then put the glass at an angle and just see the deflection. He had us do a team shoot where me and Roman both laid down, and he was like, okay, you got two bad guys. They got to be the same time. And he counted down 1, 2, 3, and we both took our shots, and just a lot of, more stuff. And then one of the cool things I thought that was really fun when we did it, and it's something I never would have thought about on my own, was shooting through. I just had them.
Loophole shooting.
Shooting through different obstacles. Something that, we all know about height over bore. There's times it means something completely different. You've got a small little opening like that you can shoot through. Just because you're seeing through your optical, if you're too close, your bullet's going to hit the wall or hit, shooting through a cinder block, shooting through just small little openings like that. Just stuff to think about. It's just a lot of fun shooting it through a chain link fence. You don't want your round coming out of that barrel and hitting the chain link, which I think we did a couple times, and you're not going to hit your target. That bullet's not going where you intended it. And in an important situation like he was with a sniper, that could mean that bullet's going off and hitting a bystander or the
absolutely
the person that it's not supposed to go to. Mm-hmm. So it was just a lot of fun. You have anything to say on it?
No, I just kind of want to go through. Charles kind of speak a little bit about it, like what the courses are and the different ones that you offer and why you offer them, and obviously not every single one, but maybe just a couple main ones that you want to speak about. And
all right, yeah. So I'll start off with this one. Everyone generally they want to take a shooting course. This shooting course, that shooting course. Like, I want to shoot better. That's great. if you want to learn to take a life, the first thing you got to do is learn to save a life, right? Which you need a ballistic trauma class, because if lead starts flying around you, the likelihood of somebody getting hit that you love goes up tremendously. So imagine you're at the mall, there's an active shooter that starts off, and you're there, and maybe a friend or Jim, you're there with Roman. Roman gets shot. If you don't have a med kit, now you're waiting 8 minutes or more for the law enforcement / medical response. And then here's how it actually rolls. When they show up on a active shooter situation at a mall or a school or whatever, medical doesn't just run in there. They wait for the scene to be secured by the law enforcement officers. Those are minutes that are ticking off. That could cost someone their life.
That's
so I always carry
adage
a
of 1
trauma kit
second
everywhere I
count.
go. What's
Yeah.
that?
It's the adage of 1 second's count. The rest
Yeah.
is minutes away. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it's not a super. We do a ballistic trauma course. It's not a super in depth. You're not a surgeon. You're patching holes and stopping the bleed to allow them the opportunity to get to the hospital, like sucking chest wounds and things like that. How should I treat that? Because if you don't treat it right, you could probably kill them. You could collapse the other lung thinking that you're doing the right thing, and you're actually not. You're filling it with blood. So you have to understand how to treat certain little things. And my fear, it all came from, the active shooter stuff we would train for schools. And guys would show up to a school on an active shooter, and everyone's thinking, shoot the suspect, shoot the suspect, shoot the suspect. And I also have that in my head, but it's also after you shoot the suspect, after you're the hero of the day, you shoot the guy. You look over and there's some 10, 12, 15-year-old little girl who bleeds to death, and you stand there and watch the lights go out. It makes no difference whether you shot that guy or not to you. I guarantee you will relive that moment for the rest of your life. And that it's a horrible thing to have that happens, but to be unprepared now, really there's no excuse. I mean, you look at Uvalde and you go, that's just no freaking excuse for that. None whatsoever. Nobody can justify their actions in what went on there. Just like if it happens around you, you got to have a ballistic trauma kit. People don't want to talk about this either, but let's say you got a gun and for some reason you thought it was unloaded and you committed some cardinal sins and it goes off and now you shot somebody or somebody gets shot around you. Again, you're 6 to 8 minutes waiting for medical to arrive. That could cost somebody their life on something simple where it was just an accidental or negligent discharge, and it could be a big problem. So understanding those things, I think, is paramount when you're going to take one of those courses. And after that, we do a lot of different types of classes. A lot of it is geared towards the shooter itself. So I've been a firearms instructor for 34 years or something like that, since I was in the military. And so now somebody calls me up and they say, hey, and this happened to me just the other day. A guy called me up and he said, hey, dude that I know, he says, I have a daughter. I want her to learn how to shoot a handgun. And I said, okay, well, let's set it up like this. What kind of experience does she have? What weapons does she have, if any? And then we talk about, hey, if she's going to buy a gun when she goes to the store, here's some things you probably want to look at, and then we'll tailor a course specifically to her and her husband when we do the training. That way they maximize the benefit of it. I talk to couples about plans and making plans. You go to dinner, you should have some kind of a tactical plan should some shit happen around you. Generally, I just try to disengage and go away, but it's a really different gear for me, right? Because I'm used to going to the fight, and that's really who I am in my nature. So, my wife, the plan is she's going to get the kids and get to the car, and they're going to wait for my phone call because, I'm going to be calling and I'm going to have somebody bringing me my backpack because somebody got shot, and I'm going to try to patch them up. But the other guy's not a problem anymore. He's talking that over with the man upstairs. It's the last mistake he's going to make.
Yeah. Now this guy's asking, all your classes are here in Vegas. Do you have any classes in New Mexico? So for
Yes, I do classes depending on. So here's an example. I drove to Texas and I taught a 3-day class in Texas. It was a tactical handgun course, and we set up a bunch of different things. We actually did some hooded box drill types of things with groups of guys. So we do travel sometimes. Depends on the group of people and if we're able to find a local range, like a local outdoor range. But 95% of what I do is I'm in Vegas, and then it's people find it a good excuse to get to Vegas for a trip,
yeah, we did your CCW class also back in, it was 2019 or 2020, which we got to do the renewal this year. So
you guys let me know when you're ready and we'll get it done. But if you're listening to this and you don't have a CCW, you need to get one.
yeah,
You're going to come to North Carolina so you can do mine again?
I'm on the next plane.
Price is right.
Carolina recognizes Nevada.
Nothing money can't make happen.
So let's talk about some things. So, last year the Supreme Court ruled on a case where a guy was carrying concealed in another state, and his CCW wasn't recognized by them. Well, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said, well, there's no constitutional rights that end at a state line.
Right.
Now they didn't come out and say, hey, there's reciprocity nationwide, right? They didn't say that. They said if you're licensed in your home state, they can't make you a felon because the other state doesn't want to recognize your license.
Well, no, right? It should be constitutional carry.
It should be constitutional carry across the country. I agree 100%. Right. I'm just being very careful about which edge we walk on here because that's not technically what they said. You know what I'm saying? There's a minor technicality there, but I didn't want to give people the false impression that now you just go everywhere.
That's why I said should be.
Yeah, it should be. And every American should fight for that. Like that's something where, just because I'm going on vacation in LA and LA thinks that, well, if we confiscate all the guns or nobody has a gun, it's going to be safe. Well, you just look at the crime statistics in LA and it tells you that that's not true. In any place you go, all the places with the most stringent gun laws have the worst violent crime. Gee, I wonder why. It's so hard for them to figure out. It's amazing to me. But if I was living in one of those jurisdictions, you better believe I'd be arming myself. I mean, if your people are going to break in your house in the middle of the night or, they're going to accost you, well, you got to do something to defend your family. So
that's something that, something I kind of wanted to ask is what do you recommend for home defense for your wife? I mean, my wife, she can shoot a gun. She's not, a marksman by any means. She knows how to pull the trigger and point it. And but what do you recommend? Small hands, not real strong. What do you recommend just as an all around good?
Probably one of the better ones.
Is it Biden the double barrel shotgun? I was like, dude, that would put my wife on her butt. How she's
Not only that, with a shotgun, you got 8.32 caliber pellets coming out the end of that shotgun at 1,200 feet.
Where are they all going?
It's going to go right through the wall and right through your kid's room, right to all the places you don't want it to go, and they spread out in an ever increasing pattern until they run out of energy. Right? That's a problem. You want one slug, in essence, that's going to come out of that weapon system. My personal preference would be a 300 blackout with some subsonic 220s, because you smoke a dude with that, he ain't getting up, right? You get hit in the face with the 220 grain 300 blackout round. It's a 308 round, coming out of that 223 casing. Very, very good terminal ballistics, very light guns. It's basically like an AR pistol. You can get a 300 blackout pistol for her. You put a little red dot on there, and anything within that 25 yards is going to get lit up pretty good. And it'll be a lot more accurate than, people talk about handguns. Well, handguns are good for portability and concealability. But, when you want to talk about terminal effect, well, just look at every emergency room across the country when we had all the gangland shootings in the 80s. Dudes are rolling in there left and right, holes all over them, and they survived.
Yeah. Right? And that was something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what about the 300 blackout? What about like the penetration of the 300 blackout So you're recommending that as like home defense, like wife, is that something that you don't have to worry about?
And you were
either?
talking going subsonic.
Yeah, I would use subsonic ammunition because it's coming out slower, right? So inside of a structure, you're worried about penetration. How deep is it going to penetrate? So now, on the ballistic side of things, a 300 blackout I think works really good indoors. Is it still going to penetrate the way you want it to? It is. It's probably going to go through that subject that is there that you need to eliminate, but it's going to be a weapon system that she can handle, right? It's not really big and bulky. Like if you used a pistol style 300 blackout, it's probably going to be something she can handle. You start to get a larger gun, depending on the frame, it's harder for them to hold up. Dudes like to put a lot of shit on their guns, tack lights and all. Thing weighs 30 pounds, man, and they work out, so it's no big deal. But
Tactical.
My wife is 5 foot and she weighs about 115 pounds soaking wet. So for her, it's got to be something smaller that she can use, that she's got confidence with. And that's the other one.
Yeah. And that was something we're doing a video on the CAA, the MCK that, you put your Glock in it. It makes it a little, and just one thing I brought up on that, we all train with pistols. Unlike you, we've never been in a situation to need it against. You never know how you're going to react. You never know how your body's going to react. I don't know. My wife gets in that situation. I'm not here. She pulls the gun. There's a lot of adrenaline going. Is she going to hit anything? That's two hands on it way out here where you get something like that, the 300 blackout. You got four points of contact on there, your cheek, your shoulder, your hands. Yep. It's a lot, I think it's
a shoulder-fired weapon is going to be more accurate than a pistol most of the time. Not everyone is a Taron Butler. Not everyone is a Robert Vogel or a Jerry Mitchlick. There are guys out there that you just certainly wouldn't want to mess with. But at the same time, when you break it down to the average, you go, okay, the average shooter, so let's use law enforcement, which is some dismal numbers. But they got about a 30% hit ratio in a lot of these shootouts that are happening at pretty close distance. And it's because, we set ourselves up for failure on the range. We don't shoot moving targets. Well, if you've ever had a gun pointed at you, you certainly don't stand in that spot anymore because you've realized you're in the wrong spot. It becomes very evident when you see the barrel. It looks that big and you're like, I'm in the wrong spot. Time to move. Self-preservation takes over. So you start moving quickly. Well, they're in the same boat and they're moving quickly too. And now as I'm moving and they're moving, I'm trying to match up my front sight, rear sight, right? Under pressure. Can I get those things lined up? Oh, there it is. Pop up. And then I'm going to be able to hit the target. Now, different types of shooting drills for different distances. When you're within 3 to 5 feet or probably even maybe 8 to 10 feet of somebody, you don't need to use the sights all that much, right? If I just use the frame of the gun, let's say it's a low light situation, and I bring the weapon system up, if I can see that the frame of the gun is in the center mass of that subject that I need to put lead in, I can just start sending it. I don't have to acquire a good sight picture. The closer it is, the less sight picture you need because you stick your arm out, you're already at 3 feet, right? Yeah. So, but you start to add a little bit of distance, you get to 10, 15, 20 feet. Now, if you're not acquiring the sights, you're not hitting the target at all. And so depending on how often you train and to the level that you train to, that also will determine the outcome as well. Some people, they shoot just a regular, B-27 style target as big as it can get, and they shoot it and they go, oh, look how great it was. I always tell them, you've built some falsehood into your training. You're not training you're training to get the gun out, blah, 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 and you hit the paper and it's all good. Well, I think of scenarios like this. Amanda Smart was taken out of her house in San Diego all those years ago. What if you were her dad and you walked out in the hallway and that dude was standing there and he's got a knife to your daughter's throat? You got 3 seconds for a perfect shot. Are you going to make that shot? That's the quite honest question to ask yourself. If I've got 3 seconds to make the shot, can I make it? If the answer is no, then maybe it's time to go to the range, right? It's an 8-inch target. this is an 8-inch target. Mine's probably bigger than most. It's probably like 15 or so, freaking huge ass head. But,
I got you there.
but that's my mentality. And I will admit I am over the top about a lot of shit. But you know what? I walk the walk. I go to the range all the time. I train all the time. I do have a firearms training company, so that does kind of help a lot.
And the hardest thing to all of that is you can be great on the range until that target, paper doesn't shoot back at you. Steel plates don't shoot back at you. And you, unfortunately, until you have the unfortunate scenario that you actually have to use that training, you don't know what your adrenaline is going to do to your particular mentality. That's the hard part.
Yeah, but it also goes back into how you're training on the range. Right. If you adopt more of an IPSC style training regimen where you're moving and shooting on an outdoor range,
right?
You want to obviously you want to be safe. You don't want to be flagging people and things like that. But if you're moving and shooting and you're exerting yourself to a degree and you're thinking while you're actually moving, doing mag changes and have somebody else load the gun, you go, okay, listen. So here's my magazine. I don't know how many rounds are in it. I don't want a full magazine, just whatever. And then as I run this course of fire, when I run out, I know that, if I run out on the last shot, as I'm moving from one station to another, I'm into my reload. If I run out of rounds in the middle of that shooting string, well, then I'm into a speed reload and I've got to get that gun back into the fight faster. Right. So it's just stuff like that, setting up barricades, here's the shit that I think about, man. And this shows how messed up I am. I got shit goes on in my head, but I watch that shit that happened in Israel, and it really bothered me because any day in America, and I guess I should be very careful about how I freaking throw this out there. I think every American needs to step it up on their game, because think about it, when you're sitting in rush hour traffic, if somebody hopped out with a gun and started shooting, what would you do? I pray.
Most people die.
Well, probably, but what I would pray would happen is that we would gun them down in the street almost as fast as it started, and then the message sent around the world is the one that everyone thinks. Like, these Americans, every one of them own guns. Like, we have more guns. The civilians in the United States have more guns than the military does. That's the truth.
Than the combined militaries of the world.
Exactly. We have more guns individually. And I will admit I'm part of the problem. I've got probably 30 of them in my 2 safes at the house. But
that was one thing in World War II. The Japanese said, we're not going on their soil. There's a gun behind every blade of grass.
That's right.
Yeah. And there literally is now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So it comes to that stuff. But now, you start looking at other things, so urban operation stuff, I started looking at that 8.6 blackout for, as I'm teaching some of these sniper courses to guys. So one thing that I did realize very quickly is between military and law enforcement snipers, they use the common calibers, but there's a lot of other stuff out there that they don't use. Right. So I think the military is switching over to 6.5 Creedmoor, but that came from PRS. That came from competition shooters. Same thing with all of the super long range projectiles that they manufactured for the 300 Win Mag. All of that stuff was driven by competition shooting. Those guys play a huge role in the advancement of armament around the world. And they don't get any credit for it. Oh, it's a comp guy. Well, I tell dudes all the time, I go, listen, you take the tactics out and you just put yourself, you're the sniper, you're the trained sniper. Go down to the competition and see how that goes for you. You're going to learn a real quick lesson. You're going to eat some humble pie because those boys are good. I've shot against them and I didn't win. I'll tell you right now, they're very, very, there's some guys, the top level guys in this country will outshoot 95% of the snipers that I've ever met. Because they're that good. I mean, but they get into reloading, depending on where you're at, there's not a whole lot of emphasis put on reloading. They talk about, internal, external, and terminal ballistics, but you don't get a whole lot of lesson in different calibers that are out there, impact energies and things like that. Like I got super excited when I started reading about the 8.6 blackout. And then I said, well, there's only one way to know. So I freaking bought one and got out on the range and started shooting it. And I was like, good Lord, that thing's dangerous. You know, it's
That
got
was one
600 foot-pounds of energy at 500 yards. So
Well,
it's
here,
got,
watch this real quick. This is nuts.
oh,
So the
this
top-
thing's beautiful.
Yeah, this is the difference between a 1 and 9 twist and a 1 and 3 twist. This is both coming out of the same gun, 210 grain bullets. This is just changing the rate of spinning the
Yep.
twist. That bottom one is doing over 500,000 rotations per minute, and I think the top is like 200,000. 1 and 9, I can't remember. The bottom is at 500,000, a hell of a lot faster. Watch the difference in the ballistic gel reacting to those 2 rounds. Yeah. Look at that bottom one.
Yeah.
Look at the difference in the cavity it created and the damage. It's
Yeah.
just nutty. And the bullet is going slower.
Yep. And you just have to, there's a lot to be said. And I think the guys at Q have really turned on to some really good stuff. I love what they do. I love listening to Brian. I love listening to guys. I remember the first time I met Todd Hodnett, and it was a very interesting experience. And I learned, because when you're young, you think that, oh, well, I went to this school, I went to that school, I know this and I know that. And then you meet a guy like Hodnett, and then you're like, holy shit, let me get a notepad. Sir, can you give me a minute? I got to get a notepad and write this stuff down. And then, he educated me very quickly about a horse reticle and, all the benefits of it. And what I found interesting was most of the guys that I worked with, they didn't want to use it. Oh, there's too much in there. It's too busy. And I'm like, dude, it does everything for you. It does everything for you. It's incredible. You don't have to dial shit, especially in an urban environment. Depending on which caliber you're using, you're just using the chart or the grid. It's got leads and everything in it. It's got wind holds in it. It's incredible. And when I saw it, I recognized it for what it is. The second best thing that I saw in the sniper craft, so to speak, is that 8.6 blackout. Because now, as a sniper, you can deliver a round that delivers more energy than your handgun at 500 yards, and it's as quiet, if not quieter, than your 300 blackout with a suppressor and subsonic ammunition. I got excited about it, but I also got worried about it too. I'm like, that's a very dangerous system when you can do some work from some distance and no one will ever know where that came from.
So, question: whenever you going back to you talking about like the professional shooters, those guys, are they typically reloading their own rounds?
The top guys are. And I found that out, when you start to shoot to the extremes of the caliber you're shooting. So let's say it's a 308. You start to shoot to, 1,000, 1,200 yards. There is some consistency in it, by using that average muzzle velocity. However, as you get to those extremes, you're going to get rounds that go over the top and rounds that land short, because you're getting the highest round in the box, the highest velocity in the box, and the lowest velocity in the box. And sometimes that can be 50 feet per second or more. So it does matter. And they say, oh, it's match grade ammunition. Well, if I'm going to get match grade ammunition, I'm expecting 10 feet per second or less. That's what I would prefer in match grade ammunition. That's true match grade ammunition.
Single digit SDs.
Yes, exactly. Because if you're not getting single digit SDs, you're not going to be one of the top dudes. Like those dudes are putting round on top of round at a mile. And now there are guys shooting, I think it was like 3,500 yards or something was the longest one, or there's something after that. That's freaking insane. But, realistically.
So what did you prefer?
As far as ammunition?
Yeah. Have you ever reloaded and shot your own ammo? Was it something that you wanted to get into? Did you notice a difference from what you were currently using?
Yes. So it makes a giant difference. It's night and day. So I started to shoot some competition, and, I'm humble enough to say, okay, I think I'm pretty good. And then you realize that weapon systems. I shot a competition with an Accuracy International 308. It's a very, very good gun, very, very accurate gun, but it doesn't work well in certain scenarios, in certain situations. It's too heavy, it's too bulky. You need
You're
something
only as
light.
good as your firearm and bullet combination. That's
Exactly.
where the reloading comes in.
Exactly. And when you start reloading, your consistency now changes. Right now, you can be even more consistent in those shots. Right. If you take everything out, all of your probable errors out of that equation, there's just no argument against reloading your own ammunition. It's going to be more accurate. There's no two ways about it. Now, the problem I ran into was I would really go over the top. I ended up buying more scales. I got 2-3 scales going on, and if it's off by a tenth, I'm dropping the whole tray and freaking reweighing everything. Man, I'd lose my shit. But my SDs were 10 or less.
Right.
And when you go out to shoot, then there's a confidence that goes in that too. Like, if I can see you, it's not good for you, bro.
Right.
And that surprised me when we were talking earlier, and I had asked you, as a sniper, that's the most important shot that anybody's going to pull a trigger on. If you miss your elk you're shooting for, tough shit. If Moser misses when he's a sniper, a cop's dying, somebody's dying, it's a bad thing. And you said you couldn't reload your own ammo. You had to use off-the-shelf ammo.
No. Yeah, you have to use off-the-shelf ammunition because they want to pass liability along. So, it's one of those things. Things have changed over the years. So, and this is the mindset. It used to be I would raise my hand, get on the stand, and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then they put these cameras on, and then they said, well, nothing you say matters. If it's not on camera, then it didn't happen. And so now you just fast forward that into the sniper craft. They're trying to take the shooter and his ability out of it. They're trying to put a camera on the gun so now somebody somewhere else can remotely pull the trigger. And it's just like, you hired me to do something that only 10 other people on the department you're allowing to do. I carried a safe full of guns that nobody else has access to, all the way up to a 50 cal. Because there are scenarios for a law enforcement officer that you might need a 50 cal. People go, oh, well, what's that? Well, let's see. A guy stole a tank in San Diego. I bet they wish they had a 50 cal for that. A guy pulled up in front of the Dallas Police Department in an armored vehicle, and they used the 50 cal on him in there. So there's scenarios where it's appropriate. But then you go to other calibers. Generally it's 223 and 308. I never deployed with a 223. I like my 223. Great little gun. It's fun to shoot. Cheap ammunition. But if I'm going into a situation, I'm never taking a 223. If I'm going to hit you, I'm going to hit you with a sledgehammer, right? Yeah. If I got to hit you, you ain't getting up. And quite honestly, that's how I see that 8.6 Blackout. That's like the sledgehammer. Yeah, that thing it's a 338 round, and it's got a truckload of energy. It's.
This says a lot right here. The guy took down a Cape Buffalo with a 12-inch barrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suppressed subsonic.
Yeah, 12-inch barrel.
Still took down a Cape Buffalo.
Oh, it says with 200 bullets. No.
That's just I had to bring that up. That's just ridiculous.
It's absolutely it's very incredible. And you know what's funny is his Cape Buffalo is about the size of my Cape Buffalo. mine's my truck though. I'm not rich like Kevin is, but
what do you take yours with?
I took mine with a 400 H&H at 50 yards forehead. I'll send you the video. It's pretty cool. Yeah, grab that real quick. I will say this. I have a friend of mine.
You didn't take that down with a 223, considering the news media says that it takes down tanks and aircraft and.
Oh no! If you listen to the View, Joy Behar said you can't hunt with a 223. You shoot a deer with it, nothing's going to be left.
Yeah,
I took this down. I took this down with a 223.
Yes. Nice.
Roman took me alligator hunting, and I shot. Well, first shot, you fish for these. It was crazy. There's a lake. There's 1,000 of them out there. Roman paid for a certain size, certain length, and the guy can tell by by their eyes. All you see is their eyes. You look across this lake, there's a thing, you see 1,000 eyes over there. And the guy could tell, and we're on this side of the lake, and it's funny. He's like Elmer Fudd.
Yes, he looked like Elmer Fudd trying to fish for an alligator.
He's going all quiet because he said they know. They can go down and stay on the bottom for 30 minutes. So if you piss them off or they think something, but he's out there and he casts out and he's got this big hook and it's blunt on the end. It's taped over. It's made to go over and grab them like underneath their arm. And then you reel them in. We're out there for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he finally gets one, reels it in, and you talk about a fight, man. You get a 6-foot alligator on a fishing pole. Man, I'm pulling on this thing, and then I gave it to Roman. He's pulling on it, and it comes up, and it's only 5 feet away, 6 feet, right there at the beach, and it pops up, and I forgot about hide over bore. I put my scope right here, and I shot him right here in the mouth.
Right.
So the next time I was like, God damn it, I know what I did. And it came up again, and I domed him right in the forehead.
Nice.
And they did a good job cleaning them up, man. You can't tell.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. We went boar hunting also. There, I wish I had the pictures up. We went on this huge skateboard thing out in the swamp and stuff, and you're on a platform about 6 feet in the air, and then it's just raw. The motor's down underneath and the tires and all these seats, and the guy's driving, and they got a dog, and the dog's out there barking. You follow the dog, and you see these boars take off, and we shot some at about 100, 120 yards. Headshots and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
But what's crazy is when we pulled that alligator out, it's dead. And 30 minutes later, he'd go over there and he's like, watch. He'd step on his foot and it would pull the foot back. Still the reflex.
That's pretty wild. That'd freak you out.
So you never went boar hunting with dogs and a knife then?
No, I don't need the knife. I got the 223. Roman's is nice with it's suppressed. So it was nice. No hearing protection. It's pink.
Yeah, that's you
need to up your game, brother.
That's another thing that needs to get changed here in the U.S. is the use of suppressors.
Yeah.
It's just there's a misstatement in nomenclature. It's not a silencer; it's a suppressor.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are baffles in there to reduce sound.
Yeah.
If you shoot a subsonic or if you shoot a supersonic round out of there,
you're getting that clap.
You're still gonna get a supersonic crack. You just know two ways around it. It's just easier on your hearing, So, and this is an issue, if you're for guys who are snipers, when you're out in the field somewhere, the last thing I want to do is have hearing protection on, right? I want to hear everything going on around me. Now they have other things you can put in your ears. Now they turn the volume up and all this, and they're noise canceling and all that. But back in the day, that gun goes off and they have auditory exclusion is what ends up going on. And, so your body protects itself. But if you're the one next to the guy, it's like, ooh, that was pretty loud.
Too many politicians has watched too many movies.
Yeah. That's a question I've always had. When you're on the teams and just out of the, you're out in a war somewhere or something, and out of the blue something happens, you don't have hearing protection in. Or even SWAT. Well, SWAT, you're going in. You'd have hearing protection in before you go in, before you kick the door.
Yeah.
But, I mean, most of the time, when you come across a gunfight, you just have to fight. I mean, you guys going.
I mean,
so I think his question is, how do you handle that? How do you deal with that? If you do have to, you're shooting round after round after round after round.
Well,
not suppressed.
So on the civilian side of things, so the military, they're going to go on an operation. They know they're going on an operation, right? So they've got their hearing protection on, they've got their helmets, they've got their hearing or their communications underneath of it, or even connected through it. Some of them have a little PTT that'll connect right to it. But same thing with your SWAT guys and things like that. But Joe Citizen, who's out at the store and something happens and he's got to use his CCW weapon. Well, it is what it is. Your body actually has a mechanism, and it's called auditory exclusion or auditory shutoff. And so what ends up happening is your body naturally shuts certain things off, and that's one of them. So, it's not going to be, all hearing loss is permanent. You don't get it back. You just end up using hearing aids. But if it ends up happening, it's one of those things you'll just have to try to fight through. Nothing that you want to train, that's for sure. You don't need to train that. Hearing loss is hearing loss. Sometimes it depends on if you're married.
Unfortunately, I shot a lot when I was younger. I mean, 357.
Perfect excuse.
You're married, it's selective.
I got hearing loss. I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Talking my good here. My wife better not hear this. She's going to come and smack the crap out of me.
Hopefully, my wife's still there. Absolutely. Oh, I think she might still be on. She said something 14 minutes ago.
Yeah. So, I think her coffee's empty.
Yeah.
Reference to courses and stuff. So, I teach a tactical handgun. I teach a tactical carbine course. I teach all kinds of handgun stuff, basically from a basic course all the way up to an advanced shooting course. There's I have a 2-day long range course, and then I also do a 3-day urban sniper course.
That's what we did.
Now, depending on whether you're a civilian or military and law enforcement actually get a different course. Like I go into a lot more detail as far as tactics used operationally, and those are the things. That's the only thing that I don't really share outside of that group, because there's skill sets that they need that we as Joe Citizen don't really need. But it's still a great course. There's still a lot of really good information in there, and it's just going to make you a better shooter all the way around. And then it just increases your toolbox of knowledge. If something were to happen like October 7th in the United States, and it happened and you and Roman were there, you guys know how to shoot through intermediate barriers. You know how to shoot through loopholes. You know how to shoot, move, and communicate. So, now you two become a lethal force, for good. And that's what we need in this country. We need more people who are willing to step up and go, hey, you know what? There's just a certain line in the sand. And if you cross it, you will find out the hard way that you should not have done that. And that's a message that our country should be sending to the cartel.
That's a fact.
I get upset and I kind of start to lose my shit. But, I'll tell you right now, I run into that stuff. And if you guys are looking for me and you want to come, you come right on. I don't mind. I carry a gun everywhere I go. If you want some, come get some. But it's just like this. The stuff that they're doing to people, they got them banded. They got them banded coming across the border down to Mexico. So they know how much money they're going to have to pay back. Right. And then, all these brothels popping up everywhere. Those poor kids are not doing it of their own volition. Yeah. Right. They're forced into something that they shouldn't be forced into. And that's where I take exception. What grown people do to grown people is one thing, but you start adding kids into this stuff, then it changes the game. And I think that they should put a JTF unit together, and their sole mission should be to crush every single cartel there. They should contact the Mexican president and go, listen, this is what we're going to do. If you get in the way, you'll become a victim too. But we're done with this bullshit. And then freaking go down there, clean house, and be, hey, listen, we're all for helping our neighbors. But, I kind of digress a little bit because I get pissed off about people want to bitch about the border. Well, guess what? The United States created that fucking border, right? We created that border. We created that problem. Where you mean you can't get? We have some of the most richest guys in the world.
Power.
Yeah, well, exactly. But at the same time, you go, if you're the guy sitting, if you become the president, and Trump's a good example. He's a businessman. So do us all a favor, call a meeting of all your business billionaire buddies, and you go, hey, instead of everyone coming here and now trying to get into the system and we got all these problems, how about we build some factories down there and we make them successful where they live at? If you make them successful there, they don't have to come here. You don't have to change the government. You just got to make an investment in them. That's right. All. You got to create a world where they don't want to kill you. You just go over there and you go, hey, listen, I don't have a lot, but let me try to help you out. How do we make this better for you? Let's build a plant here, it's only going to help those countries. They're going to make more money, and anyway, it could be solved. They just choose not to. And
they
I
don't
get
want it
irritated with
solved
the
because
politicians.
it's political points and it's all for votes.
It is.
They don't care about the victims. They don't care about the children. They don't care about the little girls being raped and sold into sex trafficking. They don't care.
They don't. They don't care about the people who are being murdered here in the U.S. And I'm fearful of a couple things. What happens if the mob in New York or in one of these other major cities, the migrant mob, decides that hey, guess what? We're sick of this. You keeping us in this place, and we don't have enough food and we don't have enough stuff. We're just gonna revolt.
Yep.
And then you've got this giant riot like the BLM riots. Are normal Americans just going to put up with that again?
Well, look what happened when they had those immigrants attacking police officers. The hell out of New York police officers. The next day, they were walking out.
Yeah,
They walked out of jail, flipping everybody off.
Country, the bird,
smiling, flipping.
And this is what it's going to turn into. And I said this to a dude, and people get upset. But here's what happens: if something were to happen, and this person ends up going to court and I can't get justice, then fuck it, I'll get justice on my own. I don't mind going to prison. I'm not afraid of that. I get 3 meals a day and I get to work out. Are you kidding? That's a guy like mine's freaking dream, bro. I don't get yelled at by my wife? Shit. How great is that?
But it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. Why does anybody want to be a cop now? Their own government, their own leadership doesn't have their back. What, that guy just beat the shit out of me and 5 of my, other patrolmen, and you're just letting him walk the fuck out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, why does anybody be, or you shoot somebody and you wind up going to jail, or your life's ruined because you can't do your job. These cops are afraid to do their job.
Yeah. Our government has turned on its people. And quite honestly, we need to remove the government. And people go, oh, yeah, you're right. I am advocating that. Because you tell me in the last 25 to 50 years what our government has done other than dig us a giant hole of debt that we can't get out of. And every time you turn around, think about, here's what $1 billion is. You could give every American, all 360 million of us, $2 million each, and you would still have change. That's only $1 billion. And they sent over 100 of that, 150 billion to Ukraine, just to Ukraine. Well, why am I paying taxes? I don't care to fund anybody to go kill someone else. I don't care to do that.
No, and we have all these homeless, all these veterans, all these people that are living on the streets and don't have anything here.
Yeah, they want to talk about this war in Ukraine. We created that war in Ukraine. The United States created that problem. In fact, this is why I like JFK so much, or Robert Kennedy Jr., is because he's calling out the CIA the way they need to be called out. Because the truth is this: they're the fucking problem. They are the problem. They want to overthrow governments. Why are we trying to do that? That only creates problems. Everywhere it's happened, it's created problems. Cuba, Venezuela, Ukraine, Iraq, Afghanistan, all these places, it never solved any problems for us and only created more issues. Those guys, I don't understand why anyone listens to them. They got my friends killed. I get upset about it because it's just like, since when do we go around the world doing that to other people? It's a horrible that these people have the ability to influence others to make those kind of decisions. Instead, if you were look at the Chinese. Now this is going to sound like I'm pro-Chinese. Hey, you got to say something when the dude goes in and he builds infrastructure in another country. Brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Hey, he outplayed you, dude. Instead of using threats, he went in and he did something for him. Hey, let's build your infrastructure. Now, is he raping him on the other side? He sure is. But hey, he did something for him better than what we did. We turn around and we go, oh, you don't like what we're telling you to do? Guess what? Then we're going to withhold the US dollar from you. And now look what kind of problem we're in on that issue with BRICS and everything else. Our neighbor to the south, Mexico, is trying to join BRICS. If people don't wake up to this, we will not be what we are currently. We will find ourselves in a giant problem where there will be a war over it, without question. Without question.
I think we're heading that way really fast.
As
if
soon
something
as
doesn't change in this next election.
Yeah, they say it. This is the election that's going to change everything. and
Yeah.
it will determine our long-term outcome. And the sad part is there's a lot of young men in the military, like Roman and other young men who are willing to go out there and fight for us in foreign countries. But what's horrible is when they find out the truth of how the thing started. Like, look at Ukraine. When you find out the truth that we put that dude in power, you just go, wow. So you mean the Ukrainians had an election and they wanted the Russians to come in? Yeah. That's why there was no blood spilt in Crimea. They invited them in, right? Same thing with all these other places. They invited them. We created that shitstorm over there. And it's sad. And, a lot of people are going to go, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, just do a little research and you'll see. The CIA created that whole
Real
problem.
research. Stay off CNN.
Yep. Yeah. So it is what it is. But, as an American, from one American to another, hey, it's one of those fundamental rights we have. You have a right to protect yourself, learn about firearms. If maybe you're not a firearm person, take some time and learn about it. It can actually be a really fun sport. I had a great time with my kids. I took them out to the range when they were 6 years old because I didn't want to have firearms in my house and them think that, oh, look, it's daddy's toy. I want to go play with it or I want to check it out. I took all the mystique out of it and I got them out on the range. I let them shoot it and it scared them a little bit, which is a little bit of fear is healthy.
Yep.
And they all have an immense amount of respect for a firearm. And I've got 3 hunters and one that doesn't hunt. One of my daughters, she opted not to hunt, but that's okay. That's her choice. We still go to the range and shoot and she loves it. She had a great time.
Most of the time when you hear about a kid shooting somebody in the house or accidental, it's a kid that, whether it's in his own house or somebody else's house, they had no idea what that gun does.
Well,
they see him on TV and see it's a toy,
Well, that leads into the whole school shooting stuff, so you just go, okay, well, here's my feeling about it is if your child went into the school and murdered other kids, the first question is where'd they get the gun at? How did they get the gun? If you failed to secure your firearm, well, guess what? You just vacated your rights to me, and now you should need to spend the rest of your life in prison because you didn't do that fundamental thing as a gun owner, which is secure your firearms. When I'm gone, no one can get to my firearms. You got to cut through a 6-foot safe to get to it. You're not going to get my guns, but that should be the mentality. Laying around the house that's not a secured firearm. People break into people's houses to get guns. And so, they need to hold those parents accountable. And if they would have done that from the very beginning, I think you would have seen a lot less of that shit. And then,
that's right. I mean, Adam Lanza is a prime example. His mother knew about his mentality. Okay. Still trained him how to use firearms, took him to the range, and unfortunately I lost a family member in that shooting. A lot of people doesn't know that. I don't talk about it much, but that was immediate family. I'm not going to name names, but I lost somebody there.
Sorry,
and had that mother done the right thing, he murdered her to get to the firearm, but how did he get the training?
Well, I'll never forget, Moser was part of it for us when October 1st hit here. Me and Roman were in Colorado. Roman was living there. I was staying with him for 2 months. And my daughter calls me it was like 10 o'clock there. Dad, they're shooting at us. And I'm like, who's shooting at us? She's like, I don't know. They're shooting. And I could hear that popping in the background. And I'm thinking it's firecrackers. You never think that's going to happen.
Right.
And then
I think you hear about it somewhere else. It's not going to happen to you.
But then we started watching, started getting in the news and stuff like that. We wound up calling Moser. Roman called him going, what do you know? What's going on? And I think you were being called out on it but you didn't know anything at that.
Yeah. I hadn't heard anything when you guys had called me.
Yeah.
I had no idea where she was at. And I was just like, okay, well, where's she at? Here's where you need to go. And,
that was right at the beginning of it before anybody really knew. I mean, she called within a minute of it starting.
Yeah. I have a different philosophy, than some people, and there is that run, fight, flight, or the run, hide, fight mentality. I don't like to serve it up like that. My mentality is if you've got a weapon system and I don't, I've got to make you think that you're coming to get me, and you got to I got to make you want to close the distance. And then once you get in this distance in here, then I'm going to do what I need to do to you. Right. I carry knives with me and other things. And, hey, if you get close enough, a knife in the throat changes a lot of things.
I told you from the beginning, he's the most dangerous man in the room.
That fight changes. I mean, even if all you have is an ink pen right through the eyeball, change the whole fight.
Yeah.
Or even in the neck. The fight goes from being offensive to defensive. And in any situation, you have to be offensive if you want to win. Right? If you go defensive, you allow them to run their offense, and you can't do that. You've got to disrupt it immediately. So
pray that situation never comes up, but when it does, it's no different than a fire. If you have a fire, you want a fire extinguisher.
Yep.
And if that fire extinguisher happens to be an ink pen and that's all you have,
it's too bad.
Make use of it.
Yeah. It's too bad. It's not too bad, but we've grown up so soft. Moser has lived that life, being a Navy SEAL, being on SWAT, being a cop. You had to be 100% right off the bat. Most of us, we don't think that way just because our whole lives have never been that way. We get in a fight, even fights, a lot of times you half-ass it until things start going, life or death hasn't been something I'm afraid we're going to start seeing more of that. And we are seeing more of it. And it's going to get to a point we really need to start thinking more along those lines, because we're not going to get a second chance a lot of times. We lived our lives. You can half-ass everything, and fights just go so far, and nobody really dies or whatever. I think we need to start looking more towards that as providers, as protectors for our family, for our wives, for our kids.
Yeah. Everyone's a protector. Every man in America is a protector. Yeah. And every woman who has a child is a protector. I watched a thing about a lady the other day. Some dude something happened in front of the house or whatever, and the guy got pissed off. She went inside, and they had an exchange of words. The guy throws some shit through her window. The glass got all over her daughter. She came out that door with a bat. She was ready to go to work. I was like, yeah, mamas can be protectors too, man. But a lot of it goes into preparation. How prepared are you today if it happens today? If you're not prepared today, then start preparing today. Don't let another day go by where you just go, oh, well, I'll get in shape next week. Well, it's never going to happen. And then the good thing about being in shape is it makes you more lethal. And the more lethal you are, the more versatile you are. Once you learn your lethality, then you can dial it back, and then it's controlled aggression. I don't generally act like I would have maybe in the military in a combat situation. I would never act like that here. But I have the ability to do that, and I know that. And so now it's all controlled in how I act and interact. And if something, like I said, October 7th happens here, well, then that Charles shows up. Like, that's the other dude, like the one that flips the switch and it's no good. But we all need to be prepared for that. And every day, I mean, it could just be the simple thing of you go out for a walk with your kid right out here in Northern California, you're walking up a trail. And sorry about that. You're walking up a trail, and a mountain lion pops out and is trying to eat your kid. Well, this one's still now it's time to get to work. If your plan is, well, if I outrun the other person, I'll be okay. Better make sure they're not training. Maybe stab them in the leg, something.
Looks like we stepped off the rails and got ended on one of the live streams.
Yeah, it looks like, PRN's still on.
Yeah, my BragginRights, they kicked me off.
Oh, BragginRights, they booted, because I think on Reloading.
Yeah, I was trying to keep track.
Well, my apologies, gentlemen. Sometimes I kind of go to the left a little bit.
We all do. Looks like we're still going on PRN, which is good.
And Reloading Journey's still up and going.
Good.
So
nope. Now they've ended us on PRN. Looks like
it was just live a second
ago.
There
it goes. Yeah. Okay. Well.
We are gonna start doing these on Rumble too.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
good.
do.
Rumble,
Yeah, Rumble will be better.
Rumble's the new. I think YouTube's going down. Rumble's just starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hold on. Here we got something from. Let's see what he's got to say here.
Read it first.
Some armed civilians would run away from a firefight. The justification is no danger. Yeah, and you know it's. I don't know. I don't know how to take that.
Well, some people might. You know, you don't know what you're going to do until you're faced with those circumstances. Self-preservation is a crazy thing. A lot of people think that they watch these movies about all these heroes, and they're gonna all of a sudden you're gonna be John Wick. Well, guess what? Keanu Reeves wasn't even John Wick until he went and trained. If you don't train, you ain't gonna be John Wick, bro.
That was back to my
You're gonna be Barney Fife with one round. You know,
back
that's
to my
gonna be
much
it.
earlier statement of you don't know what you're going to do until the adrenaline hits.
Yes. Yep. Once you're faced with it, then you'll know. But then another side of that works into this. How often do you tactically train your mind? What if this scenario happens? That's why I do the research that I do, not only because I teach to law enforcement and military guys like I do. I'm constantly trying to figure out, okay, well, if that happens somewhere else, what's the likelihood of a copycat? That was the most successful raid by Hamas in history. You don't think that they're going to plan to fucking do that somewhere else? You better wake up, because that's exactly what they're going to plan to do. That was a very successful raid. And if you break it down, and I don't want to give a lot of specifics, because I don't want to give people ideas, but yeah, it could be pretty bad. So, we each got to do our part, which is, we train, we, think about the different stuff, run tactics through our head. How would I do this? If, and 99% of the time, that's like a 1 or 2% case scenario that might ever even happen, but I'd rather be prepared and have a game plan. It's like you said, about having a plan for a fire. Well, you're right. I have a fire plan. And it might be rolling a little caving ladder out the window and climbing out the window, because the house is going to burn down.
Right.
So having a plan in place, preparation prevents piss poor performance, and that's really what it turns into. And
it's all about saving lives when it comes right down to it, especially for children.
Yep.
They come before any of us.
Yeah, but I want people to know this too. There's a lot of other sides to weapons and firearms. There's competition stuff. Kids absolutely love it. There's a huge uptick in like IPSC and 3-gun in high school kids. It's a great thing for them to do. It's something to learn. On the reloading side of things, you learn so much so fast that it opens your eyes up, and now you start thinking, well, if that's possible, then what about this? And that's really what happened to me. I started to reload some 300 Win Mag ammunition, and I was like, okay, well, if that's how this works, well, how does it work with this? And then I switch things around. And I go, oh, that worked even better.
Right. That's
this
all the fun of reloading.
Exactly. So tactical awareness is being prepared to respond to the threat are the key elements of survival. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You got to be aware. And then
that's something that
different things.
What they say is hard times create hard men, easy times create easy men. We've had easy times for a long time.
Yeah.
Our men aren't what they used to be.
Well, I'll say this. I think that we kind of at our different stage, and I think most of the people are selling American men a little too short. Think about this. How many men do we have in this country who've actually been in open combat? Quite a few dudes from the team, from the military, right? So, they may be retired. They may be out of the military right now, but they're not out of the fight.
That's a fact.
And, they would be foolish to come here, because you want to talk about an insurgency that you absolutely couldn't win. That's one of them. If a foreign government landed on the shores of this country with just the military guys, just the retired military guys, and the knowledge they have from war, they're gonna get a handful for sure. So,
Yeah.
there's
they
a lot
don't
of
care. They don't care if it's from their wheelchair.
they
They're
don't.
going to fight.
Hey, wheel me out there, Bob. There was a story, I forget who it was. I think it was Eric Prince. And I will admit this, I really love listening to him talk because he's almost like a theologian, right? The dude, he has some very interesting history stuff that he has committed to memory. And he was talking about a guy, an old guy who was like 70 something years old. He goes out and he fights against the British. Like he kills like 3 people. They beat him. They bayoneted him. They beat him in the head with their butts of their rifles, and they left him. They thought he was dead. The dude lived until he was like 90 years old or something. Like he recovered from his wounds and then got back in the fight. I was like, that's just a bad motherfucker right there. I'm like, I want to be that guy when I grow up. Holy shit. There you go. It's better. It's like they say, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Preparation is everything. And then in a lot of preparation, there's the physical aspect of it. Like I love talking about workouts because it extends life. I want to be around to see my daughters get married. I want to have fun with my grandkids. Everything I do today is for my grandkids.
That's right.
My retirement's set. It's I will admit this. I can't believe the good Lord took care of me like he did. He knew that, his knuckle dragon barbarian wasn't smart enough to figure it out on his own. So he put some things in place to take care of me. Thank the Lord. But now all the stuff I do is for my grandkids, but I want to be around for them. And that's a lot of what goes on in this country is, it's too easy to go get shit food, right? So McDonald's, Taco Bell, of all the fast food stuff, none of that is good for you. And that's going to lead you to an early grave if you eat it or you continue to eat it. Coke, soda, same thing. It's sugar in a cup. If you ever watch the video of how much sugar is in one cup of or one can of Coke, it will scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
It'll scare you even more than how much sugar is in one packet of ketchup.
Yeah, it's you just go, wow, that's crazy. So interestingly, I've kind of turned into a carnivore. I just almost eat nothing but fucking meat most of the time, because it doesn't have any sugar or any of the other stuff, and I just drink water because soda makes me sick, and it takes a conscious effort to get yourself off of it. But for me, it was a thing where my mom was a diabetic, my dad was diabetic, my sister was a diabetic, and I was like, I don't want to end up like that, so.
Same scenario here, and I'm hypoglycemic. I was the total opposite.
Okay, there you go.
And hope it stays that way versus diabetic.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because, high blood sugar leads to a lot of different bad stuff for your body, and none of it's good. And it just shortens your life. And, those golden years aren't so golden because you're hobbling around and you can't get around. So,
well, I aspire to be like my father. My father is 93 years old, and he still goes out and can still pull a transmission out of a truck.
I love that. That's awesome.
I mean,
that's like my grandpa.
11 years in the Air Force, or just shy of 11 years. He served in the Korean War conflict, did a lot of things for the military that was never on paper that I didn't even know about until recently. Until he started breaking out all these handwritten letters of accommodation and for the things that he did in the military. And
that's
he
cool.
just absolutely amazes me. He's 5'7", 150 pounds and just still rocking it.
That is 93. So cool. So cool. That was my grandpa. He was in his 90s when he passed away, but I mean, I saw him. He was like 91 years old last time I saw him, and he was out driving around in his truck like no big deal.
Oh, Dad drives every day.
Grandpa's still got.
My dad can't wait for somebody that thinks it's going to be funny try to race him at a stoplight. He's 93 years old. He never misses that opportunity.
That's funny. Pulls up in his Charger. It's got a supercharger engine in there and everything.
Oh, that's him all day long, man.
That is so funny.
Yeah, well, they just don't build them like that anymore. There are not many.
Nope, they broke the mold. But, and I will say this, a lot of what goes on now, I spend a lot of time talking with young guys in their 20s and 30s, and I try to tell them the things that I wish I would have known when I was in my 20s and 30s, like credit card debt and being debt free, and what does that mean, and what's it look like, and how do I put a plan together, and how do I get there? And I was talking to my son, and I said, hey, listen, just because you have credit card debt doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You're not gonna have to pay it off forever. And so we had a little talk, and I said, I want you to listen to Dave Ramsey, because when you listen to Dave Ramsey, it becomes inspirational, because you hear people, they've paid off hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, and they're debt free, and they're this, and you just go, man, what a great freaking story people should hear about. Just because you might be under the thumb right now doesn't mean that that's how it's going to always be for you. And if you put a plan together, you can get debt free, and then you could live that best life that you want to.
Well, and that's it. I mean, just like my business, BragginRights Precision, I'm small and growing, and I'm blessed with so many opportunities every single day. Jim and I were blessed to be able to go to SHOT Show through Frankfurt Arsenal and AOB Products, and that's helped as well. But versus going to complete debt, I want to expand my business. So I had a 2020 F-150 4x4. I paid $50,000 for it under my Ford X plan from when I was an employee. And, I bought it in late 2019. They gave me $30,500 for it the other day. It was paid for. I paid it off early. Okay. I used that to expand my business versus go into debt and have to finance things at these crazy, insane finance rates.
Yeah.
So you got to use your brain. Quit getting all the credit.
Exactly. It's don't put things on a credit card. You have to learn how to figure out, okay, well, I want this thing, but I'm going to have to save for it.
Right.
People right now, everyone gets things like this. I mean, you order it on Amazon, it'll be at your house tomorrow. That's the world we've lived in now. And so now, because you get that instant fix, it's like, well, you're calling the delivery guy. Why is it not at my house? It's 8 a.m. It's like, well, sir, we said by 5.
I can't argue about the Amazon, because I order about $30,000 a year off of there for my business.
How do you not?
But I get so many of my customers, and I love all of them. I mean, I really do. Without my customers, I wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
But they think I'm Amazon sometimes. It'll be 3 days after they've placed an order on a Saturday, and they're wanting to know where their product is. And unfortunately, I am not Amazon.
No, but thank the Lord that Bezos is, right?
Right.
Thank the Lord for that guy. And when you hear his story about how he started out, nobody believed in it. He was doing the deliveries himself. And you go, look at this dude now. I don't even think how old is he? I think he's like late 40s maybe.
Yeah.
Like, he's really not all that old. And you just go, man, that is a freaking amazing idea that he came up with all those years ago. And yeah, good for him. Smart dude. Mm-hmm. And then here's another thing that impresses me about him is, so I saw this thing where they started I forget what it's called, but there's an Amazon company where basically it costs $50,000 to start, but you create a business online. You decide which products are going to be in your store, and then it's like drop shipping to Amazon.
Right.
And here's the cool part about it: when you look at it, you go, oh, well, they just want to make more money. You go, no, actually, he's making you an entrepreneur.
That's right.
Now he's going to give you a bunch of tax breaks that you've never even thought of, because you own your own business. And then from there, that's your step to becoming a millionaire. He's going to make tons of millionaires around the world with this system. And I just thought to myself, because I used to say that all the time. I'd be like, why don't you go make millionaires somewhere? I mean, how cool would that be if that's on your gravestone? This guy made more millionaires than anyone in history.
That's right.
I'd rather have that than this guy shot all these people. Like, no one gives a shit about that. But if you change people's lives for positive, it's like, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That's just
Jeff Bezos is 60, by the way.
Oh, is he 60?
Wow.
He looks like 25.
January 12th, 1964.
Gosh, I'll be happy when I'm a thousandaire, much less a millionaire.
Now that's not right, because he looks pretty good for 60.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He set the bar pretty high. Son of a bitch, I got to get back to the gym.
I got that much money.
We got the same. I got the same hairdo.
A little bit of health.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what it is. He got that haircut.
Yeah.
I got all the gray, and it's what's left of it,
I'm there with you,
you go.
brother.
Yep, the gray hair says a lot.
Yeah.
I earned a lot of gray in my 55 years.
Yeah. It's stuff that goes on, man.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to tell you what, it has been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
We've gone, what, an hour and 42 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
How awesome is that?
That is outstanding. I didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah.
No, we've been having fun. It's been great.
Yeah. Talked about all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
You know
I
it's
knew this
cool. You know it's cool in the end you're live.
Yeah. They got very offended. Like, man, this guy's talking about
We
some stuff
did
don't-
our job right.
Yep. Well, you
Well,
know,
truth hurts.
it does, you know, and I hope and pray that this next election goes the way that it should. If it doesn't, you know, I think we're all in for a lot of trouble. And I just pray that
We are unfortunately in for trouble either way it goes. It's just going to be which side causes the most.
I think pain's coming one way or another. It's just, is
Right.
it pain to get us heading in the right direction, or pain because we just keep going in the wrong direction?
I'd rather it be pain in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yep. And
No.
that wrong direction is what will be the end of us as a nation.
Well,
If
that's
you
the
don't have a
difference
border,
between conservatives and the far left liberals, because they want it their way only, and the conservatives, we want it the right way, but where it's the better benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, and they can't accept that. There's
Well-
the issue. Even if we have to bend at least, you know, sometimes you got to bend a little bit, but it needs
Yeah.
to be in the areas that's right, you know, for the best benefit of everybody involved.
you know, I used to think that the Democrats, you know, and the Republicans had the vast majority of their beliefs were pretty much right on par. There were several things, you know, either one side or the other was a little over the top about, but we seem to be a lot closer to the middle. These days, it seems as
That's
though
gone.
it seems as though they're taking steps intentionally to destroy our country.
Yeah.
Well, of
And
course
that's the
they
part
are.
that bothers you. You're like, because, you know, listen, I fought for that flag on foreign land. You know, I've bled for this country, and I love this country.
That's
I
right.
have friends that gave their life for this country. And for the things that are going on, it's disrespectful to every American that's ever lived. You know,
Well, that's right.
Tucker Carlson was talking about this the other day about, you know, he'd gone to St. Petersburg and he's having this interview with Vladimir Putin, and he's looking around and he's looking at the architecture and the history and all the old statues and all this stuff. And it hit me because it was like, yeah, you used to have that in this country. And then people went around because they got their little panties in a wad. They wanted to pull them all down. And it's like, listen, you didn't have to agree with it. It was the history. Like, you want to overlook certain parts of the history. Hey, we had slaves. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. I
Right.
don't agree with it. I
We
don't
learn from it.
Well,
We stop it, learn from it,
own
and move
another
forward.
person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a part of our history. And if you put your head in the sand, then the likelihood of it rehappening, it goes
When
up.
you destroy and erase history, history repeats itself because there's
Exactly.
no reminders.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now you just change the color of someone's skin, and what's happening at the border now? They banded them up to come in. And you go, wow, man, how is that happening at our border?
Right.
With everything we learned over the last 50 years, how is that our border, man? Like, people, and it's interesting. I just wonder, do these politicians ever even sit back and just think for a second, how's that happening on my watch?
Oh, they've thought about it, and then they thought about how it can affect their votes and to stay in power.
And they're
Well,
big.
They've thought about it hot and heavy, brother.
Probably.
How does somebody
They're,
have
they're not naive.
a lifetime as a public servant and be multi-millionaire? You know.
Yeah, off a $220,000 a year salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah, they thought about it really hard.
Yeah.
as soon as they did away with insider trading for Congress, that changed a lot, because now they're all dirty. They're
Yeah.
all making their money. Oh, it's my husband made the investments. Well, I'm sure you had something to do with it. I mean, the truth is there. Just people want to try to pretend like it's not the truth, and it's like, no, that's the truth.
Yeah.
There is no
I don't
Democrat. There is
talk
no
to my
Republican.
spouse or my son about my business.
What's that?
I said they never talk to their spouse or their sons
Yeah.
or daughters about business.
No.
They never never use their name to, and I don't know, I always think, look at what happened with Biden and his son and the Ukraine. The whole thing, Trump. Now, all of a sudden, Biden's want to give them hundreds of billions of dollars. Is it just hush money?
Yeah.
You know,
You just think to yourself, if more people would think about how much money that really is that they're talking about sending over there. I've heard people say this, talking about not paying their taxes anymore because their taxes are going over there. And I understand that frustration. I do. You just go, yeah, I get it. I don't agree either. I'm at a point to where I don't think the Republic's gone enough to where there's going to be, they talk about a civil war and all this. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know how that happened. I don't see how that, it's one thing when you had the South against, the North, but I don't, that's just such a scary thought now. It's you against your neighbor, it's you against your neighbor to your right and your left and across the street and everybody. Our country, it's sad to say, and I don't want to see it, but, when was the last time we were cohesive as a country? The day after 9/11.
Yep.
And for a while there, black, white, red, green, we were all together. We all had a common enemy. We've got it too good. Everybody has their little, LGBTQ, black, brown, everybody has their little thing they're worried about that affects them and not what affects us as a country. What's going to make us better as a people? I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're gay, straight. We're all Americans.
Just be good people.
Yeah, we're all Americans. We're all in the same boat, in the same place, at the same time. Screw all that other stuff. None of it matters if we're all just fighting against each other. And the people that win are the people, the Chinese, the Russians, everybody else, as we just beat ourselves up and tear our own country down from the inside.
Well, the issue is the news tells us that we're supposed to hate the person 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Okay, that we've never met. We don't know them. They're just a different colored, whatever it is. The news says, you should hate them.
The worst part about
invite
that,
them to dinner, invite them to a barbecue, get to know them. You'll find you got things in common. You all have the same blood, the same heart.
But the worst part about that is they're not
the same thing.
They're not telling you to hate your neighbor 3 doors down. They're telling your neighbor 3 doors down that you hate them.
Well, there you go.
They're telling them that you just hate them because you think different, your political views different. No, I don't hate anybody. If I see you with a Biden sticker on, I might, you're an idiot. Might think
I'm gonna laugh at you, but I don't hate you.
But if I saw you broke down on the side of the road and I could help, I would still help you.
That's right.
I'd love to put a Trump sticker on my truck, but I know if I drive my truck down the road and park it, someone's going to slash the tires or break out a window or follow me home just because they, it just.
Till people learn to love other people, this is going to continue.
Yep. And the one that I hate the most is when they try to make it a racial issue.
Exactly.
It's 2024. After everything that's gone on in this country, and even now, I don't have time to worry about the color of some person's skin. If you're breaking in my house, I don't give a shit what color you are. When you get in there, you're going to be red.
If you come in,
I'm going to spill the inside of your contents all over the floor.
If I think that you're going to threaten my family's life, I am colorblind at that point. I don't care.
And even for 95%, I have friends who are black, white, brown. I got Filipino friends. I got different Asian friends. I got one friend, dude. This guy followed me in. He's a great friend of mine, dude. He's got an amazing story. He's from he's a boat kid from Vietnam. He came over here in the 70s from the boats. Became a Navy SEAL. And then he went to Dev Group. He was one of the best of the absolute best. So,
it's why do I care if a black person's successful, if a brown person's successful, if a gay person's successful?
I hope everyone's successful.
Everybody's successful is going to make us all more successful.
I spend all my time trying to make other people successful. I talk to people about starting their own businesses. Yeah. I talk to them about investing, how to invest, where to invest, why to invest. I talk to them about different ways. Like you don't have to be beholden to one place, to one single income. You limit your money earning potential with that mindset. If you're limited to just, I go to work to this place and that's where my money comes from, you're missing the boat. You have missed the boat. The boat works like this. You've got to have investments. You got to have a business. You got to have maybe a rental property or two. Like there's a lot of different ways you can generate a self-sustaining system that you don't need the government for or a particular entity. I don't have to work for this company forever. I put a 10-year plan together. You can be independent in 10 years and be making your own money off of your investments and the things that you've invested your time in. But it turns into one thing. What's the want to inside you?
Right.
If you want it, you'll do it. If you're willing to suffer, then you'll do it. But if not, if you've gotten used to Amazon coming to the house or Uber Eats, well, guess what? You gave your money to Uber Eats. So,
somebody else's business.
Starbucks. Yep. And I will admit I have a Starbucks addiction. $3.45 a day. Like those bastards got me. But
well, Amazon gets me, but like I say, it's just convenient for my business, and I can't get the stuff I need local. So
there is a price business for it. That's one of them.
I use a local machine shop who has been absolutely wonderful to me. Good godly man that owns it and got to be good personal friends with him. But the other things that I do, I do all my own 3D printing and anything I can give local, I do. But unfortunately, most of what I do is hard to get local. And I still, even on Amazon, I try my best to get things that are made in America, but some things just unfortunately are not.
Yeah. I spend more time looking to make sure that it's not made in China.
Right.
And a lot of things are manufactured there, but I spend a vast majority of my time looking for something, the same product that's made in America, so I can fund an American company rather than a foreign company.
Right.
That's absolutely working against, those guys. If anything happens, I think about this. So imagine if something happens with a group of Chinese people that come across the border. Let's say some of those guys were PCP dudes and they launch an attack. Well, because the president was complicit in that, isn't that an act of treason?
Right.
Because he allowed it. He conspired with the enemy against our country. He's taken money from them. His son has taken money from them. That is an act of treason. And there's an extreme punishment for that. So it's just like, I'm amazed. If anything happens, how does he sidestep what's coming? Because at that point, I think you'll see a very huge change in the American culture and what happens in this country.
That's probably for a different podcast, but that's the two tiers of justice right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of silliness that's gone on, and it's sad. I just pray that my worst fears don't come true. However, I always prepare for worst case scenario, and I try to talk to other people about it so they're aware. So it's not just me; it's you guys. It's the people who listen to your podcast. They're prepared mentally. They've taken steps. They've trained. They prepared themselves. So when the hard days ahead come, they're ready for that. And it doesn't matter what that hard day is, whether it's hey, I'm going to suffer a little bit, eat some top ramen for a couple of years and buy another house so I have a rental income, or it's, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, the other side wants to say that all you guys that are trying to prepare for all this, that it's wishful thinking. You want it to happen. There's nobody in their right mind wants that to happen.
Nope.
It just kills me to hear that out of people. You carry a gun. No, you think you got John Wayne syndrome. No, I don't want my family to die.
Yeah, no, I don't want anyone to die.
I pray every morning that I never have to use my firearm, and I pray every night and thank God that I didn't have to.
I can't think of his name. The guy that shot the guy in the mall. 40 yards. They have a test now you do. 40 yards, 10 rounds. You got to get 8 on target. What was his name? Dickens? The Dickens drill. The guy that was in the mall, that guy started shooting.
They hit him from the really long distance with his handgun.
Yeah, it was like 40 yards or something. Thank God that guy was there.
Yeah.
Thank God that was somebody
that he saved.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank the Lord he was there. It's one of those things where I've talked to dudes who now my computer's messing up, but I've talked to dudes who there was an officer in Las Vegas. He showed up on a call, and he actually had to make a shot at 50 something yards with his handgun.
Wow.
And surprisingly, got him. Good to go. I was like, I think it was 3 shots. He fired 3 rounds and put the suspect down. And I was like, that's a man who practices his craft.
Well, that's right.
So very, very, very
Yeah.
interesting.
And thank God he was there with the bullet. That was my thing on that is thank God that guy had his concealed carry and was in the mall at that day and that time.
Yeah.
And countless number, it could be 200 people he saved. It could be 10.
Right.
But even if
it was one, it was worth it all.
It was worth it.
Yeah. And, there's a falsehood that people have in their head about law enforcement. Everyone thinks, oh, well, the cops are going to come and they'll get the guy. No, it's already over with by the time the cops get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's already over. So,
and the cops might get there and save 100 people, but there's going to be 20 laying there dead that we're waiting for the cop to get there to save.
Yeah.
It's just, I would much rather, and I remember back, it was years ago, there was a guy on the subway in New York that shot people. And of course, nobody there, I would much rather be shot by somebody trying to stop that guy than be shot by that guy. I'd much rather have 20 people pull a gun and maybe nobody has to fire. That guy goes to shoot and 20 people pull a gun on him. Nobody may even have to pull the trigger. But
that's exactly it. In my lifetime, I've pulled my weapon 3 times, did not have to pull the trigger. I diffused the situation and thank God for it.
Yeah, thank the Lord.
It's just, we're a lot safer even if those people just don't do it because they think 10 people in there might have guns on them.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's just, it's
a gun-free zone is nothing but advertisement.
Yeah.
For the bad guy. Yeah. I'm sorry. It just is.
Yep. It is. And
soft target.
They get it in their head, well, where can I go where,
that gun-free zone did not save my cousin's daughter at Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Just didn't.
It's just not going to, it doesn't deter anybody. It's just deter people that might be able to help from.
Yeah. And think about this. So here's another one I'll throw out there for you because I think about this a lot too. So we go back to what $1 billion is. We're going to send hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine for people to blow each other up and kill each other. But you mean we can't afford to put some guy at the front door of every school in this country to protect those kids?
That's right.
It's booting us off at 2 hours. We're stopping. I think we reached
our limit.
Yeah, it just counted down. So I think our live stream is going to stop. Anyways, 2 hours. So now we know. Well,
it
still shows it's going. Well, it still shows it's live. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Well,
I noticed it's back live in BragginRights again too.
Is it? Yeah, and I'm still showing live on. Well, let me see. I'm still showing. Well, maybe I jumped in and I was just going by what it was saying. Yeah. I think we're still live.
I'm going to tell you what. It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been very good. I've loved it. I wish I could continue on. I'm going to have to get rolling here. I gotta shut this place down.
Yeah. No, thanks, CDL. Roman. He had to jump out, take a call. We're going to log off if you want to say bye to Moser. And it started counting down just before 2 minutes. The live stream's going to stop, but then it never did. So, everybody's saying it's still live.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, we learned something. Glad we didn't learn it.
And guys,
how cool is that?
All of you still watching, thank you for sticking in there.
Oh, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Thanks, Moser.
Moser, thank
awesome.
you, man.
And I just got to say,
God bless you for what you've done and what you continue to do.
Yeah, and I just got to say, even though you're not right now, I know you're in San Francisco on a job, but I'm just glad you live here in Vegas. At least I know I got someone that I could.
Hey, if anything happens, you know where the guns are. They're in my safe. Come and get one. I got plenty for all of us. So anyway, all right, guys.
It was
Take
nice.
care.
It was good seeing you, Charles.
I appreciate it. Roman, it was great to see you. You too,
You
Jim.
too.
All right.
God bless you, man.
Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff.
Go follow SWAT Concepts on Facebook.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Check out his website. We'll put, I think that I'll have that in the description. It's actually in the description. If you look underneath the video, it has SWAT Concepts website on there. Thanks again, Charles. I've been great knowing you. It's been definitely a plus to my life knowing you. And thanks for
And you guys are a blessing to me as well.
Thanks for taking the time to sit with us for these 2 hours. Who knew we go that long?
Always.
It's
No
been
worries.
phenomenal.
I'm always there.
All right. And thanks again, Randall.
Absolutely.
Randall, it
being
was
here
very
for
nice to meet you.
You too.
And hopefully one of these times we'll get together for a coffee and
Yeah.
I'll meet you face to face.
Next time I'm in Vegas, maybe I can catch you in.
Heck yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, man.
All right,
right.
guys.
See you
All right,
later.
guys.
We're
We'll
shutting
talk.
it
God
down.
bless everybody.
Bye.